I'll just be bold right up front and say that I love to tell people that I'm a Davis Cup champion that has a mental illness. How's that for breaking a little stigma? I got diagnosed back in 1996. And it was at the end of a long 3-year, awful, depressive episode. And long story short, I had a year's counseling, which I knew I needed, but really was not diagnosed until I went to my skin doctor in December of '96, and he had spent a year in the psych ward, which I did not know, and he was a good family friend. And after hearing me sort of spontaneously pour my heart out to him, he diagnosed me with clinical depression, basically. And so when I started feeling better, and the counseling helped tremendously the year that I had it. I probably had 40 one-hour sessions in the year 1996. And then I went on medication because my dermatologist said, you're trying to lick it on your own without getting on it, so you need to get on it. And I did. I'm still on it. I'm on Zoloft, and I don't know what I would have done without antidepressants, because I know how much they've helped me. When I could feel the fog lifting after 3 full years, I thought, you know, our society doesn't really do this deal right. We don't we talk about diabetes, heart disease, cancer, ulcers, and that's great, and that needs to be, but somehow from the Adam's apple up, we don't want to talk about stuff that goes wrong with the brain. And as I tell everybody, hey man, I got the same DNA from the Adam's apple up. Stigma, pride, ego, macho, that's just telling it the way it is. What I would like to tell people that may be suffering or may think they are, I said to someone the other day that in my speaking engagements and having talked with people that have come up and confided in me and whatnot, they hesitate because our society's not ready yet to say, okay, somebody's mentally ill. That's just the way it is. However, in some ways, clinical depression it's a mental illness, but it's more of an emotional disease than anything. I mean, you know, I think people don't really understand when mental illness is thrown out there, that it's not like, you know, you become violently dangerous or you lose your mind, but you have skewed thinking and your emotions are terrible. And but what I like to tell people is that, you know, a lot of these people that are suffering are sitting there on the weekend watching these pro athletes out on the field. And yet, if you really think about it, those pro athletes have all kinds of coaches they reach out to for help. They have team doctors that are on duty 24/7. They have psychology coaches these days. And so a pro athlete is interested, really, at least it was in my league of play, pro tennis. They're interested in winning. They're interested in the bottom line, getting the job done. And they look at reaching out for help in those different areas I just mentioned as a sign of strength. And so when I got sick with clinical depression, I viewed it as another opponent. I studied everything I could get my hands on, and I read about it, and I wanted to know my opponent, and I wanted a game plan, and I wanted to incorporate people into my life that could help me with it. That's why I went to counseling for a full year with a guy that had a PhD in counseling for the problem that I had. And so I would just like to say to people that, you know, the help is out there, and you can now really get help and not have it be a public affair. I can talk, I can speak out. Not everybody can, because society's still not willing to accept that in some quarters. But that's why I speak out. I can. And so reach out for help. You know, if you think that clinical depression is a wimp disease, it's going to take all the macho you've got to beat it sometimes. You know, your family is going to be proud of you, your employers are going to be proud of you, and you're going to be proud of yourself for saying, okay, if I need help, I would take insulin if I had diabetes. So, you know, you can correlate that in some ways. Seek help, it's available. Get knowledgeable. And if you're not sleeping well, if you're not going and playing golf with your buddies 3 days a week, if you're not enjoying dinner out with your wife on your date nights, if you're being very irritable with your family or your mates at work, you might want to think that you want to consider the fact that you might have clinical depression. At any given time in our society, about 15% of people have it. Of the ones who need help, only 30% get proper treatment, and that is a real shame. Of the people who seek help, 85% get massive relief. Unfortunately, 20% of ones who don't get help commit suicide. So it's a very serious thing. Here it is. If you're ready for help, we've got it for you right here, and it's the traditional, mainstream, meds if needed, talk to your doctor. Cognitive therapy and what that entails. It's a different way of thinking is what cognitive therapy means. I kid everybody and say, wait a minute, don't use these fancy terms with me. I'm a high school dropout. What is cognitive therapy? It's another way of thinking about life and seeing it in a way that you can manage. And then a decent lifestyle where you cut out certain things like alcohol or Valium or things like that. Sleep good, eat good, and exercise. And if you stick with that program, you'll probably get well. But there's a lot of hard work. I tell everybody, there's no magic wands. Clinical depression is a liar and it's a bully. It's a liar because it whispers in your ear 24/7 that nothing is worth living for anymore and that you don't have any hope and that it's just death is coming quick, or you can actually contemplate suicide, which is the physician's death manual of symptoms. Well, the last 5 words of my book are never, ever, ever give up.